In 2022, we celebrate 130 years of HBCU football. On December 27th, 1892, Livingstone and Biddle College, now known as Johnson C. Smith University, played in Salisbury, North Carolina, with Biddle winning 5-0. Over time, HBCU football has evolved. HBCU football's popularity continues to rise. Millions attend games each year and millions more watch on television. The HBCU bands provide some of the top entertainment in the country. Over that time, some of the best players to ever play in the National Football League played at HBCUs. Every Monday through Friday on the HBCU Football Daily Podcast, national radio and television host Donald Ware takes a look at what's happening in HBCU football and talks with coaches, players, administrators, and media about the 2022 season. Make sure you join the conversation on social media by using the hashtag HBCU130. Now, here's your host, Donald Ware.
You've got it locked to the HBCU Football Daily Podcast for today, Wednesday, September the 21st. I'm Donald Ware. It is the Hump Day edition of the HBCU Football Daily Podcast. It's where we begin to transition into the next week. Of course, week 4 upcoming for HBCU football. A couple of housekeeping notes before we transition, and something that I forgot to talk about yesterday, a couple of things. With respect to Takeaway Tuesday. Congratulations to Tuskegee. Tuskegee got its 700th victory in its football history, the most amongst any HBCU, top 5 amongst all Division II programs. And appropriately, Reginald Ruffin, now the head coach at Tuskegee, formerly at Miles, a disciple of Willie Slater, the current head coach at Clark Atlanta, who was the coach at Tuskegee for all of those years, had 120 wins as the head football coach at Tuskegee from 2006 to 2021. Of course, so that's 121 wins of 700 wins. I'm trying to think off the top of my head what kind of percentage that is. What maybe right, a little less than 20%. Of course, Cleveland Abbott had 206 victories as the head football coach at Tuskegee back in the day from, I think, 1923 to 1954, something like that. So congratulations to Tuskegee. Congratulations to Reginald Ruffin on the victory for Tuskegee. The other thing was, forgot to mention the HBCU National Player of the Week, North Carolina Central quarterback Davius Richard, completed 18 of 27 passes for 194 yards, 2 touchdowns, rushed for another 140 yards and a touchdown. The Eagles with a huge victory, over New Hampshire, number 25 at the time, 45-27. And now North Carolina Central is the 25th ranked team in FCS, of course, number 3 in the HBCU polls. Speaking of the HBCU polls, we take a look, freshly released on Tuesday, the HBCU Division II coaches poll powered by Botch to Row. No surprise, Virginia Union, who was number 1 last week, number 1 again coming off that victory over Livingstone, received 19 of the 21 first place votes, followed by Albany State at number 2. Albany State received 2 first place votes. Benedict at number 3, undefeated on the season. Fort Valley State at number 4, undefeated on the season, and Fayetteville State rounds out the top 5 of the Division II coaches poll. And for the coaches poll in its entirety, you can log on to our website at botchtorow.com and you can check out the coaches poll in its entirety. So like I said, it's now, a situation where we kind of transition now to week 4, take a look at some of the games for week 4 in HBCU football. And I mean, it looks like, it's going, I think it's going to be a solid schedule. I mean, you could have a couple of what I would call games of the week. And of course, we're going to preview the game of the week when we do on Friday. We'll preview the game of the week. But I mean, you've got a couple of games that could qualify certainly as games of the week. So let's look at it like this. Central State is at home. It is hosting Miles, an SIAC matchup. Johnson C. Smith at home hosting Lincoln of Pennsylvania. That is a CIAA matchup, but a North versus South matchup. West Virginia State looking to make it 2 in a row. Is going to host Notre Dame of Ohio. Jackson State is on a roll. The Tigers are going to host Mississippi Valley State. Spoke of Tuskegee. Tuskegee looking to make it 2 wins in a row. Hosts Allen. Bluefield State. So Bluefield State's a NCAA Division II independent program. 2-1 on the season. Some solid wins. A win against Central State this past Saturday is going to host Fort Valley State, who's undefeated on the season. That should be an interesting matchup. And by the way, Bluefield State is receiving some votes in the HBCU Division II coaches poll. St. Aug's is hosting Bowie State. Bowie State looking to get back on track. Has now dropped 2 in a row. It's fallen all the way to number 7 in the HBCU Division II coaches poll. Shaw, big win over Bowie State. Going to host Elizabeth City State on Saturday. Lane is hosting Edward Waters. The Dragons looking to make it 2 in a row. Lincoln of Missouri is on the road looking for that first victory of the season. Going to be at Northeastern State. Texas College also on the road against Wayland Baptist. It's Bethune-Cookman hosting Grambling. I mean, if you look at Bethune-Cookman, everything is in front of Bethune-Cookman. Grambling's got a loss in the SWAC, while Bethune-Cookman right now is 0-2, hasn't played any SWAC games, so everything right now is really ahead of Bethune-Cookman. Delaware State going to be at home taking on Merrimack. Morehouse at home taking on Savannah State. Norfolk State looking to get off the schneid. 0-3 on the season, hosts St. Francis. Texas Southern going to be on the road taking on Texas San Antonio in a game that could qualify as the HBCU National Game of the Week. Fayetteville State is hosting Virginia Union. You're talking about Virginia Union playing very well, probably the best team in the CIAA. I mean, you could argue that because we haven't really had that many conference games. Fayetteville State, the 4-time defending Southern Division champions. Livingstone going to be at home taking on Virginia State. Virginia State trying to make it 3 games in a row. North Carolina Central is hosting Virginia University of Lynchburg. Alabama State is hosting Prairie View A&M. Alcorn State looking to make it 2 in a row. Had a nice victory over McNeese State. Is hosting Arkansas Pine Bluff, who's 2-1 on the season. Benedict undefeated, hosting Kentucky State. Shawan looking to make it 2 in a row, hosting Winston-Salem State, who's winless on the season. Clark Atlanta is at home taking on an Albany State team that is extremely tough. That is a tough game for Clark Atlanta. Hampton putting its 3-0 record on the line on the road against Delaware. Florida A&M coming off the bye week is at home hosting Alabama A&M, who is winless on the season. Langston is on the road, is taking on American Baptist. Langston, again, one of 6 teams undefeated, looking to remain that way on the road. And in another game that could qualify as the HBCU National Game of the Week, North Carolina A&T is at home taking on South Carolina State. South Carolina State is coming off a bye. A&T is winless on the season. The Aggies have won the last 3 games in this series, and this is the first home game for North Carolina A&T. So I'm going to be in Greensboro. Very much looking forward to that game. It's an entertaining game each and every year that South Carolina State and North Carolina A&T get together. So that's going to about wrap it up for today's HBCU Football Daily Podcast as we transition into week 4. Don't forget to tell a couple of friends about the HBCU Football Daily Podcast, where you can, of course, listen and download the podcasts on our website at box2row.com, also at iheartmedia.com, or wherever you may get your podcasts, and you can watch on the Box to Row YouTube page. talk with you tomorrow.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the HBCU Football Daily Podcast. You can also listen to the podcast at boxtorow.com, iHeartMedia, or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to get your HBCU football fix on Box to Row with Donald Ware each weekend on the radio station near you, and on SiriusXM on HBCU, Channel 142, and on ESPNU Radio on SiriusXM, Channel 84. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Box to Row for the latest in HBCU football, and don't forget to tell a friend.